Hello and welcome to the No Balls podcast. I'm your host Patrick McDonald. With me, co-host Sheldon Kaufman. Today we are going over the San Antonio Spurs offseason recap, preseason predictions. If you do not know, we do this for all 30 teams. This should be awesome. We're talking about the Spurs today. Sheldon has a Spurs related trivia question before we get started. What do we have today during our B team recording setup?
All right, Pat. 2011, a big day for the Spurs franchise. They drafted a certain player with defensive prowess, the Claw, to Kawhi Leonard. They had to make a trade to get Kawhi Leonard. Who did the Spurs trade to the Pacers to get the draft rights to Kawhi Leonard in 2011, Pat?
This is a good one. This is one that once you know it, and it's George Hill.
Wow, right on the dot.
Let's go,
That's
dude.
correct. George Hill. I didn't even know he played for the Spurs. Honestly, I did not know that.
Long tenured good player, George Hill. Most famous for missing a free throw, or maybe two free throws, in Game 1 of the 2018 Finals. Let's go, George Hill. He had a great NBA career. As you can tell, we're starting with the Spurs. We'll talk about the 2025 Spurs. 34 and 48, 13th is what that says in the Western Conference. 34 and 48 expected record was 21st in the league. They were also 21st in SRS, which is opponent adjusted net rating. 20 and 21 at home. 14 and 27 on the road. Big discrepancy there. 23 and 29 pre All-Star break. 11 and 27 post All-Star break. Versus the East, they were 12 and 18. Versus the West, they were 22 and 30. And then in clutch games, they were 17 and 20 with a minus 3.5 net rating, which was 19th in the league. That should be a darker color. It should be red, but it is green. It made it through the cracks. This was a crazy season for San Antonio. We'll talk about some of the mid-season changes they had, but what do you remember most about the 2025 Spurs?
I mean, just looking at the numbers, Pat, there's a very obvious thing staring us in the face, and that this was like a little bit below average team pre All Star break, but after the All Star break, it looks really bad, 11 and 27. And what happened after the All Star break? Victor Wembanyama got hurt, and I think it just completely derailed the Spurs season. This was a team that was legitimately pushing towards a play-in appearance, and then after the injury, they kind of fell off. It's hard when you lose such a big piece of not only your offense but your defense as well. And I think that's kind of why you see these numbers reflect. Another weird thing is they weren't that successful against the East, which we see a lot of these West teams kind of be. But also, I think the Wemby thing was it's kind of the theme of the season, like the what if, because this team was looking pretty good heading down the stretch after acquiring Fox.
Yeah, for some reason, the Wemby thing somehow slipped my mind because that was probably the most important thing that happened mid-season. Other important things that happened. Greg Popovich steps down as the head coach after like 20 years due to health concerns. Legend of the game, everybody loves Coach Pop. He's still the president of basketball operations with the organization. And then the midseason trade for De'Aaron Fox, which you mentioned briefly. We can talk about that move a little bit later, maybe in a more granular sense. But as of right now, like, it was a midseason splash to get a co-star, and then they played 5 games together because Wemby got hurt. You can really see like 11 and 27 post All-Star break. It's pretty rough. And then, they did end up benefiting from that. So, we'll talk about that a little bit as well. Talking about their offense first, 19th in offensive rating last year with a 114.4 offensive rating, 10th at preventing turnovers, 22nd in offensive rebound rate, 13th in pace. Nothing huge standing out here. The turnover rates, I think, were much down from the season prior. Big reason to that, bringing in Chris Paul. Um, and they were an okay offensive team. We'll talk about the defense in a second. Isolation wise, average efficiency on offense, 16th in isolation frequency, um, and efficiency. Pick and roll ball handler efficiency was 22nd in the league with the 26th frequency. As you can see, these things are not super high priorities, and then that's having that be the case is like a baseline for having a good NBA offense, as we will always talk about in this series. Pick and roll roller efficiency was sixth. They have this very tall guy named Zach Collins, and he really helped with their role. um, they also were 10th in frequency, so they were a very good rolling team. Post up wise, 12th. Just about good, but not great. And then post up frequency was not common. 19th in transition, they were 12th in transition. 7th in frequency of transition baskets. That's a good sign. That'll help you on offense, especially if you are decent efficiency wise in transition. Yeah, these San Antonio Spurs offense. What are the huge takeaways for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's a young team that likes to get out in transition, and it's really good to see that not only are they getting out in transition a lot, but they're converting a lot on these opportunities. The roller stuff, you're always going to have that with the Spurs because you have the tallest dude in the league and one of the most cheat code dudes in the league with Wembanyama, unreal reach and finish around the post. And his post up game was really good as well. It's why you see the post up numbers um, being like 12th. They didn't go to it a lot. The pick and roll ball handling, that being so bad is definitely a thing that stands out because if you fix that, like get it the top 15 even, like I feel like this offense gets a little bit of a bump even more. And we'll talk about some of the guys they brought into the draft that handled the pick and roll very well. Um, so I think that they've definitely looked at this and know what they need to improve on. But uh, just stick with the things that have worked next year for sure. Like get out in transition, convert, let Wemby do his thing, and then once that ball handling percentage kind of becomes more effective, um, I think you're looking at a competent Spurs offense in 2026.
And that's just so wonderful, right? Um, Talking about their defense, not as wonderful last season. I think there's obviously been the with Wemby on discrepancy, but yeah, overall it was not great. 25th in the league last season, 21st at forcing turnovers, 26th in securing defensive rebounds. They just, they couldn't force turnovers. They couldn't end possessions. It was rough. Talking about the actual possessions in isolation, they were 10th at defending isolation, only 25th in frequency, though. That is, not what you really want to see, but at least they were decent at defending the actions. Same thing on the ball handler side of things. Decent at defending the actions, 16th, and then the frequency is not super high at 19th. These numbers will not break your defense, but you would like to see teams running more of those things because that generally will be a signal of slightly unorganized offense. There is also the outlier where it is very organized offense that runs a ton of pick and rolls, but generally it will point towards an unorganized offense, which is what you want as a defense. Um, Roller defense against was 23rd, not good. 15th in frequency on that side of things. Not what you really want to see. At least they were able to deter a couple shots at the rim, only being 15th. Post up frequency was 5th, which would be decent if they were a little bit better than 22nd at defending the post. They weren't great defending the post. And then transition again. They just weren't great at defending transition. 18th in transition frequency. Like, not great. They just overall were not a great defense last season, which is very hard when you have Victor Wembanyama. And I'll quickly pull the numbers on his on off on defense because I have the general on off, but not
While you
the
do Pat,
defense split.
while you do that, just a quick refresher because I don't know why, but um, for frequency, the lower the better, or the lower the worse? Like 30th. 30th is last or first?
So 30th means the least frequent.
Okay.
In some of the instances we want, like, you want to be first in isolation frequency and you want to be
Yeah.
last in transition frequency, but I felt it would be more confusing if I coded them differently. Um,
No, no, yeah. No,
so
you're good. I just wanted to make everything make sense for me. I'm sure it's a lot easier to
yeah,
follow other people's brains.
yeah. So when Wemby was on the floor, they had a 113 defensive rating, and when he was off the floor, they had a 120 defensive rating. So like, huge difference on the defensive side of things. A lot of that's like just unreal rim protection versus Zach Collins. And yeah, well, and even later in the season, like, they didn't even have Zach Collins as their starting center. It was pretty rough out there for San Antonio. Um, Team scheme and coaching staff. Um, New head coach Mitch Johnson took over midway through the season. GM, depending on who you ask, Brian Wright, R.C. Buford, or Greg Popovich is in charge of the team. Primarily, it'll be Brian Wright. He has the GM title. Assistant coach Brett Brown, everybody knows as a former 76ers head coach, the predecessor to Doc Rivers. So I don't know. Corrales Williamson, he worked with the, uh, gosh, should have wrote this down. Scott King was a player development coach with the Knicks prior, and I will get the Williamson job experience while you talk about your opinion on this regime here.
Yeah, certainly an interesting one. I think Mitch Johnson, there's a lot of stuff to still be unknown about him. I mean, kind of a crazy situation that he got put in, having to kind of take the job whenever Pop went down, and I think he handled it pretty well. Uh, I mean, like I said, losing Wemby hurts so much because this offense, not like the offense is very heavily centered around Wemby, getting Wemby the ball in the post, having cutters go to the basket while he kind of facilitates from that high post. Him having post up shots, him even taking the ball up in some instances that we saw last year. Um, and on defense especially, like you mentioned it, we mentioned the on off numbers. The Spurs, they don't do a lot of switching. They like to try to stay on their man because they know that if someone gets down deep, pause, if someone gets into the paint, Wemby's going to be there to smack it across the half court line. And then when you don't have that, when you don't have the size or even rim protection ability, like Zach Collins is nowhere near the rim blocker Wemby is, and it's not close. It's like two totally different guys stepping in there. And it hurts a lot, especially on your defense, because really they just like to funnel everything to Wemby. And honestly, it's a great strategy because you mentioned like 113 defensive rating when he's on the court. And the offense, I'm just interested to see like how they're going to play it. Who's going to be facilitating? Who's going to be bringing the ball up court? Who's going to be running the pick and rolls with Wemby? Because I think it's going to be really important. Um, because that's what they do. They like to set screens with Wemby, let Wemby roll alley oops for him, a lot of opportunities, a lot of stuff like that. So yeah,
After looking, Corliss Williamson was an assistant with Minnesota over the past 2 seasons.
I'm
So
glad you got that.
yeah,
Glad we
I
got that.
had to give credit where due. Those are their two new assistant head coach or assistant coaches. That's why they are in gray. Victor Wembanyama's tough to crack the code. It's like the reverse Pistons effect, where a couple years ago it was just like literally impossible to evaluate any Pistons player because they were playing in like they were playing in basketball hell, and
Yeah,
now Wembanyama's like such a basketball cheat code that it's hard to evaluate their other players because they're playing with Wemby, so all of their weaknesses are going to be hidden on the defensive side of the floor, and then like, you can space five out with Wembanyama. Um,
yeah,
that's why it's very hard to build a bad roster with this team, and we'll talk a little bit more about how we think they're building the team around Wembanyama and how good we think they're doing. As of right now, though, Wemby's, the past couple years, they've kind of let him just work on expanding his game as they've, started to fill out the roster. They've experimented with Point Sohan. They've experimented with not playing point guards. They did a lot of stuff.
Point so
Not
was definitely an era to be forgotten. That was great. I remember like there was so much just about him never passing Wemby the ball.
Yeah, Wemby's whole rookie season, like nobody knew how to play with him yet, and some of that is just like you've never played with a player like Wemby, but then some of it was also just like some of these guys will never know how to play with Victor Wembanyama to maximize Victor Wembanyama. So, yeah, as we get further and further away from Victor Wembanyama's rookie season, I think they hopefully have some type of an idea of how to build a team around them. Um, Anything else though on their trio GM, their head coaching, even some scheme stuff. The scheme stuff's like we won't really know what makes up this team because like their second best player played 5 games with Victor Wembanyama last year.
Yeah. Um I think I pretty much said most of my things. I think after Wemby, it became a lot more Fox, like De'Aaron Fox reliant, like relying on him being a playmaker and also having to go out there and score a lot. Um, so I mean it's gonna be a totally different Spurs team. Um, and like you said, we didn't even get to see a full Fox and Wemby. And I don't know if you watched the first game when they played against the Hawks. That game was
Hawks.
like it was crazy. It was crazy watching them too. And I think it was like a high scoring game. I believe the Spurs ended up pulling it off like near the end. But I mean, I like what the Spurs have. They have a lot of guards now, and they have solid wings around Wemby. And like you said, Wemby's a 5-out force placer. Like it's gonna be. I just it's gonna be very fun to watch them next year because I think the Spurs team now has like legitimate playoff aspirations.
All of the benefits that the Knicks had with playing Towns at the 5 this season on offense is basically what you get with San Antonio now. It's just Towns isn't, or Wembenyama isn't a catastrophic defensive player when he plays the 5. He's actually like he's the opposite of catastrophic. It's just basketball cheat code. We'll get into more about it. We'll talk about their draft first because they had 2 very interesting players and 2 very interesting like draft theory players as well. Second overall, they take son of Ron, Dylan Harper from Rutgers. And at 14th overall with the Atlanta Hawks pick, they take Carter Bryant from Arizona. I'll let you have the floor first on either one of these guys. Where do we want to start?
Let's start with the number 2 overall pick, Dylan Harper. Rutgers, like you said, played with Ace Bailey. 19.4 points per game, 4.6 rebounds, 4 assists, shot 48% from the field and 33% from the 3-point line. He's a great driver, Pat, and really good at finishing. And that should be even more impressive considering how bad the spacing was at Rutgers last year. We talked about it already with Ace Bailey a little bit in the Jazz episode, but not a lot of space on that Rutgers team. And Harper was able to he was really crafty, able to get past defenders. Really good at taking angles and just driving to the basket, and really good at finishing. And his size, Pat, is really good as well. He's 6'6", 220, and with the 6'10" wingspan as a guard. You don't see that a lot. Kind of giving a little bit of some Luka Doncic size comparisons. Big body. And he's really good at scoring out of the pick and roll, which is why I'm very excited for him to be on this team. I think he's really good at not only scoring out of it, but also facilitating out of it, which I think is going to bring wonders to this Spurs team. And yeah, just a really good passer and playmaker. Like I said, 4.4 assists per game last season. He's a guy that can go and get it done. Some things to worry about. 33% from the 3-point line is a little concerning in college, but he was given a lot of usage at Rutgers. So just getting a little bit shooting consistency, I think, is a huge factor because if he can do that, I think it opens up a lot for the Spurs offense, who hasn't had a lot of consistency from shooting at the point guard position. Um, Pull-up scoring is also a little bit of a question mark. didn't look great at times at Rutgers. A lot of air balls and bricks off the rim, but um, besides that, Pat, you're getting a really good, really big guard that can drive to the basket and finish with ease, and can also play make out of that. And a guy that can like work in the pick and roll. And even though there are some concerns about his three ball, he definitely can shoot it, Pat. And he just has to get more consistent at it. But besides that, I mean, it's a great prospect. A guy who can guard the 1 through the 3, switchable guy. So yeah, Spurs fans should be very excited.
Yeah, so Dylan Harper was like the consensus number 2 guy in this draft, and I think it was for a good reason. He has like a two superstar skills, that being like creating the first step to get by a defender and then operating a screen, a ball screen. He's like elite at those things. Um, his draft measurements with a 6'4.5" height, without shoes, 6'11" wingspan, and a 36.6" max vertical directly compares to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 1-to-1. Um, I think that's a little like ambitious. I don't think he's quite as good. Just bending and creating just blow by situations like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I don't think he's as explosive as a straight line driver as Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, but he's like got the framework of like this super lead creator option. Like you said though, the shooting's not there, so it's probably not going to be a right away thing. Um, but the thing is, like, I think he'll be a fine shooter. I think he shot close to like 37% on catch and shoots. He was very efficient at the rim. He plays off 2 feet very well. Like he has good touch. Um, I think as of right now, I'm just of uh, a little bit hesitant on the playmaking stuff. Like he's good at passing out of his own creation. It's just he doesn't have that like Trae Young, Tyrese Halliburton innate feel to find passes that nobody sees. He's more of a passer like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in that realm where like if you send a ton of bodies at him, Dylan Harper will make you pay. But if you get really creative with it, he will pick up his dribble and not turn the ball over, but he won't always punish the defense from those things. However, I'm saying this sounding very negative. I think he's like his ability to operate ball out of pick and roll and his ability to just create a first step advantage is just so elite and something that you can take a bet for at second overall. I had him number 2 in this draft just for those reasons. Like I think you need to have those two things to be a star creating guard. He has them. I think the shots, the concern is the pull up shot. Cade Cunningham couldn't shoot a pull-up jump shot until this past season, and that was like what was holding him back from being like a star offensive creator. So I think Harper will have to improve in that area, but at the very least, like he's tall, he can scale down to being your off-ball player, and like he does have Victor Wembanyama, so he, he's got a lot to work with here. Um, Player names that came up for Dylan Harper, the big one for everybody is Cade Cunningham, and I think it makes a lot of sense. They move the same way. I think Dylan Harper has endorsed it a lot as well. Um, I think there's a little bit of nuance to the game. Like Cade Cunningham was a lot better of a shooter coming into the league. He just couldn't shoot his first 3 years in the league. But we'll have to see with Dylan Harper. Was there anybody else who came up for you for Dylan Harper?
I just got Cade. I got Cade. I like the Cade comparison.
Yeah, like just the ability, like the smooth operation, very efficient with his steps. All of that just makes a ton of sense to me. I think as he comes along as a shooter, like people are anticipating him to do, there can be some bullish upsides. I think that at the very least, the concerns about his shot are overblown a little bit because he plays really well off the ball, we're really good off the catch. Just might not be a day one pull up shooter, and that's perfectly fine because they have two better players than him on their roster. Carter Bryant, we got to talk about him because I think he's awesome. I had him 11 in this draft. Um, Carter Bryant, Arizona product. Played not enough in college. I think everybody was like Carter Bryant's their best player. Why does he come off the bench and not play that much? Uh, yeah, I'll give you the floor now on Carter Bryant.
Yeah, really interesting prospect, Pat. Like you said, didn't play that much. Only 6 points per game, 4 rebounds. Shot 46% from the field, 37% from the 3 point line. Thing I like about him is he's really good off the ball and he's really good at cutting. So I think that he could make a automatic impact on the Spurs team, at least a little bit offensively. Obviously, he's not going to go out there and drop 20 or 15 a night, but I think he can go out there and provide solid minutes off the bench and give him some decent, some electric finishes at the rim. Really good perimeter defender. Really good defender in general. That's why I think the Spurs low key got a steal here. Getting a guy that's 6'7" with a 7 foot wingspan. Um, just that's what you need on this team. Just wings that can defend too. And he can also shoot the ball, Pat. Didn't get a lot of opportunities, but he did shoot 37% from the 3 point line last year. Really good catch and shooter. A lot of his shots were off the catch and shoot. And that's what you need in the NBA, guys that can knock down the three from the corner. A thing that he did very well, and he has a little bit of some passing upside, Pat. I think that he'll be able to be a connective passer in a couple of half court possessions. But I mean, the big thing on him is the defense. He did really good. I think he adds a little bit of rim protection too, like solid blocker as well. We saw it during the summer league a little bit. Um, I mean, the only thing you got to worry about with him is the fouls. He does sometimes tend to get his hand caught in the cookie jar. Happened a lot in college. Self creation, but I don't really see that being an issue because the Spurs are not going to ask him to self create at all this year. So, um, and just shoot the ball more is what I would say. You can shoot the ball, so do it. Not a lot of opportunities at Arizona. Go in the NBA and start off hot.
It's just having a guy who is like supposed to be this defensive first wing. Your my instant mind is like, so can he shoot? And then Carter Bryant, the answer is indefinitely yes. When Carter Bryant is playing off of a superstar player, you will see his 40-inch vertical, which is very rare for a player like his size. Like he's not like super huge, but he's 6'7", 6'8". Like he's a very tall guy. So that's really impactful as a cutter. Having a 40-inch vertical, long arms from that standpoint is good. You mentioned the perimeter defense. I thought he was more impactful as a help defender, but come summer league time, like he was making a difference in summer league. So, the agility is maybe a little bit of a concern, but like he's like towards the top. I think he's fifth in the draft class and like maximum top 3/4 sprint speed, which is that's impressive. Yeah, just if Carter Bryant just improves the agility a little bit, he's gonna be Aaron Gordon, like modern day Aaron Gordon, not even like the Aaron Gordon that couldn't shoot. And I think that's just the easy name to come up. Aaron Gordon was also like in college was like a super high volume scorer, so maybe it's not super 1-to-1, but I think you and I both think like he probably should have gotten more run in Arizona this past season, and like he's also I'm pretty sure also very young for this class as well. Yeah. So I mean, just like he like seems like a lock to be one of these like super role players. I don't think there's that much more to him. Um, just like seems like a lock to be like your you know third best player on a really good team that like maybe he's your fourth best offensive player, but he's just gonna probably be an impactful defensive player. And yeah, Carter Bryant makes a ton of sense here for San Antonio. Other than that, do you want to talk about these guys as far as how they fit for this upcoming season? Because I think that was a big talking point during the pre-draft process on these guys.
Yeah, I guess the biggest concern is how does Harper fit? I think right because how where is he going to find playing time with
Yeah.
Darren Fox as well? Because they're both kind of guards that can facilitate pretty well and drive, but can't shoot the ball well. So can you play him at the same time, or are you going to have one come off the bench? I think a lot of that's been discussed with Dylan Harper coming off the bench, maybe leading the second unit. I mean Carter Bryant, I think he fits in well with the team putting him on like coming off the second unit, I think he'd be an instant impact. And even in clutch time, when you need to stop, you put him in. I think Carter Bryant fits probably a little bit better than Dylan Harper, but you can't pass up on Dylan Harper because of the talent he is. The question is then, Pat, do you like is De'Aaron Fox your one, and then are you putting Dylan Harper in the starting lineup at all? I think at the beginning of the season they won't do that, and they'll have him coming off the bench.
Yeah, we'll definitely talk about it in the lineup section, I think. Um, yeah, I mean, I think Dylan, or not Dylan Harper, I think Carter Bryant fits everywhere, so I don't have any fit concerns with Carter Bryant. Dylan Harper, I think the fit's been a little bit overstated. Um, we'll move to their trades and free agents, and then we'll talk more about those guys in the lineups. Trades and free agents, Luke Cornett, they make a signing of him, 41 million over 4 seasons to be basically the backup center, along with Kelly Olynyk, who they get in trade with Washington. Um, those are both two centers who could very much impact the team. That's very interesting. You know, they had Zach Collins last season as their backup center. Micah Potter, he's on an Exhibit 10 contract, may or may not make the team. Lindy Waters signed to a minimum. Davis Jones Garcia, Summer League legend, on a two-way contract. Adam Flagler on a Exhibit 10. And then the De'Aaron Fox extension, I figured I would put it here. Even though we'll see it in the spot track section, I also wanted to, give us an opportunity to talk about it here while Luke Cornett is in front of us rather than the spot track spreadsheet, because I know that can be a little bit annoying for some people to look at. But yeah, what do we think about these additions?
I really like the Luke Cornett one, and I think it gives you a really great backup big, and gives you that shot blocking that you didn't have. We saw Cornett kind of like wake up in the playoffs when Porzingis kind of fell asleep, and he proved his worth. I think Cornett has been. I think I really like Cornett because I think the shot blocking is huge, and we haven't really seen Cornett get an opportunity to play, but I think he's your backup big. And Lennox also good. You get a good vet that can space the floor as well, so gives you some flexibility off the bench. Uh, Baylor legend Adam Flagler gets the Exhibit 10. Love to see it. Yeah.
Yeah, the also thing about the Cornett signing, the contract is very much like not guaranteed. Um, usually NBA money is, I think it's only like 26 million guaranteed, and like they can release him to get $15 million off of that deal, which is, even more flexibility for them. Way to go, San Antonio. I think that's a great signing. I don't think any of these are like huge needle movers. Um, we can talk more about the Fox extension because like he's getting paid the same amount as Luca, and I don't think
Wow.
anybody will argue that Fox is as good as Luca.
Yeah,
But
that's
I
great.
mean, the total number as well is more for Fox because he has the extra season. Um, and like they kind of put themselves in a weird position that they had to do it since they traded for De'Aaron Fox. But when they traded for De'Aaron Fox, they weren't expecting for Wemby to go down, and then they would
Them to get
end up
Dylan Harper.
jumping to the number 2 overall pick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, like it was just, it's such a bizarre situation, and I don't know how I would have navigated it. What do you think? What would your the angle been here?
When did they give him the? Did they give him the extension like right when he signed, or did they give it to him this off season? Off season, right?
Like a month ago.
Okay, yeah. Uh, I don't know. I think you keep him. I think I like the extension is a lot of money. That is for sure. Um, but I think you can make Dylan Harper fit. Like I don't think that's going to be too much of an issue. And we never got to see the full Fox and Wemby show. You know what De'Aaron Fox is capable of. He's been in this league for a long time. Um, he's been All Star, right? He's had to be an All Star.
He's made a single All NBA appearance, and that was his lone All Star season, I think.
Okay, well he has those capabilities. I like it. I like the extension. I don't know if I'd love the 30%. It's a lot of money. I think you have to do it though. I think I would have done it if I was the Spurs because you have to see what could be. I mean, we only saw flashes of it. Let's get the whole show.
Almost a dangerous Paul Pierce quote right there. Um, Otherwise, though, like my thing is like if you are very confident that Dylan Harper is going to be better than De'Aaron Fox, you definitely shouldn't have done this. But part of me also is like you could have waited like to mid-season to make sure this worked first. But I think their theory is like, hey, having De'Aaron Fox here makes it to where when we make it to the playoffs, we won't be embarrassed in the playoffs. And I think they think Wemby will like kind of be able to insulate whatever the hell else is going on the roster, and they wouldn't have just the secondary star there, and they know that fit doesn't have to be perfect. You have basketball cheat code on your team. So I guess it kind of makes sense. I think it would have also made a ton of sense to like I think they could have signed him to a shorter term deal, like 1 or 2 years, like what Donovan Mitchell did a year or two ago with Cleveland. That would have taken him right up to when he would be eligible to get 35% of the cap based off of service time. Otherwise, Fox isn't eligible for 35% because he hasn't made All NBA. But once you play, I think you play 10 seasons, you are technically eligible for 35%. That's how Paul George got 35% from Philadelphia, and that's the worst contract in the league. But there would have been incentive for Fox to do a shorter term deal, which would have lined up pretty much with before Wemby's rookie contract is up, and I think that would have made sense. Now he's also just not trade eligible for the whole season in case you wanted to trade him away. Like I don't know. I think it's just bad process, but like 30% maybe is just a little rich, but not too terrible in my opinion. Um, we'll talk about their losses. Enough pandering about signing an all-star to a big contract. Losses: Charles Bassey, Bismack Biyombo. Those were their backup centers, unsigned.
Not bad.
Um, what could he have been if he didn't play 20 games a season his first 3 years for Philly? Um, Chris Paul goes to the Clippers, joins the Unction. Biggest loss of the year, Sandro Mamashevsky. Um, I definitely butchered it. Dang, 'cause I've gotten good at saying his name, and then I lost it. I lost it. As soon as he went to the Raptors, I was like, I no longer care. Uh, um, but yeah, Mamu had some of the craziest per 36 numbers. Like he was averaging like 22, 10, and 4 per 36. Just awesome, Mamu. Unironically, one of their better players last season, and they would never play him. Malachi Branham on the Wizards, part of the Kelly Olynyk trade. David Duke Jr. is unsigned. Blake Wesley was also a part of the Kelly Olynyk trade, uh, and he is now on the Trailblazers. Any of these losses super huge for you?
uh, if I mean the only one that I guess like makes any like the Chris Paul one, he was the only one that actually really played. But I mean, you're getting Dylan Harper and you have Fox. I think it'll be okay. But Chris Paul was great for when he was there. Uh, Mamu, that hurts. 50 point player, had a 50-point performance last season, so they'll be missing that, I'm sure. But other than that, I think
Wait,
you gained a lot considering what you lost. So I wouldn't be losing sleep over it.
wait. He had a 50-point game?
Yeah, I think he's fit. I think he dropped 54. Fact check me. Fact check me. I could be wrong.
Wait, wait. No, that's there's no way, right? He had 34. He had 34. It was
Oh, I'm
against the
tripping.
Knicks. I was like, I know he went off against the
Sneaky.
Knicks.
I thought he did drop
Um,
54 against the Knicks. Dang. My bad. My bad. Anyways, just Chris Paul, I think, but I don't think it's like a huge loss. It just he was the only player that actually really played from this list.
yeah, nobody else here. They played Biombo, and Bassey a little. I mean, Brandon and Wesley also did play, but they weren't huge impact players. Here's their cap sheets. The dreaded cap sheets that I'm sure everybody hates looking except me. Um, as you can see, there's the Fox contract. You can see it actually. With the bird right raises, it reaches almost. It does reach 32% way down the road. They still have this big Devin Vassell contract. Way ahead of, or way I don't know the word, but aged poorly in the recent years, because I feel like if Devin Vassell was now contract eligible, he would not have gotten that back. Harrison Barnes expiring, big expiring. Keldon Johnson has another year after this past season on a big contract. And then after that, like, their books are pretty clean. Otherwise, you get your big Wemby rookie contract, um, which is awesome. And then like the Cornet money, like I said, very much non-guaranteed. Um, and then it's just rookie contracts and minimums. Otherwise, pretty clean books if we want to look in the grand scheme of things. They should have cap space next offseason, almost uh, like $50 million. Or no, that's almost 40, and they should be steering clear of most luxury taxes.
All right, I don't know what happened.
Mhm.
My Wi-Fi started tweaking. All right.
Yeah, but otherwise, as you can see, the Spurs should be pretty clean, books wise, even with the huge De'Aaron Fox contract that we spent 3 minutes talking about. Um, Shout out to Fansfield, shout out to Spot Check. Oh, we've made it to the lineup data section. What a wonderful moment! This is a huge one here, as you can see. I'm thinking about how I should talk about this. Here's the Wemby on numbers. The team was a plus 2.81. Steph Castle was a plus 1.7. Trey Jones was a plus 13.7. Jeremy Sohan was a plus 5.9. Harrison Barnes was a plus 5. Devin Vassell was a minus 2.8. And then Julian Champagny was a plus 3.2. As you can see, all of those are very good. Thumbs up, good. With Wemby off, I'm not even going to read them. They're all really negative. So, you talk about with Chris Paul and Wembanyama out there. They've typically had the Spurs point guards have had very positive on-off signals the past couple of years, because when the point guards aren't out there, they have nobody who has any idea how to play basketball. It seems like sometimes, um, very good basketball players just with not IQ based games. So the point guards typically have really good on-off signals, highlighted by the plus 26 uh, net rating with Trey Jones, Wemby, and Chris Paul. It was over like 70 minutes, but like Trey Jones and Chris Paul sharing the floor together was a plus almost 16, which that to me, looking at that is a good sign that they can probably play a non-shooting guard out there. Like Trey Jones can't shoot either, and teams don't have to respect Chris Paul that much shooting the ball. Like, he's a fine shooter, but he's not even 6 feet tall. Easy to get close out on him. Yeah,
I have
like,
a jumper.
yeah, he's got the unk jumper. That means it is better now than it was when he wasn't unk, but
Yeah.
it's a little bit slower. But Chris Paul, they can play a non-shooting guard out there. Like, it works because Trey Jones is a high IQ player, and so is Chris Paul. You just have to have more than just one high IQ player out there. And then like some of the other important ones, like when Castle and Chris Paul shared the floor together, it wasn't good. It was a -4, but when you put Wemby out there, it was almost a +4. Um, Devin Vassell, regardless of what happened, the results weren't very great around him. I think he's had a weird couple of seasons after he was trending really good early in his career. And then Julian Champagny. big Julian Champagny guys. We are. He was pretty awesome last year, almost a +10 with him sharing the floor with Vic and Chris Paul. There's a reason we don't abbreviate Chris Paul. Um, New lineups.
Hmm?
As long as you're ready to go to the new lineups.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, I I really struggled making theirs. I ended up with De'Aaron Fox, Dylan Harper, Julian Champagny,
Uh,
Carter Bryant, and Victor Wembanyama. I really debated starting Cornette at the 5. Um, but on a real note, the difficult challenges here were like, who do you start? This is what I ended up going with. I'm pretty sure you probably ended up with a different answer.
yeah. I like looking at the. Wow, this is very interesting. Um, yeah. I definitely I like I like this lineup though a lot. I think it gives I like the fact that Carter Bryant's starting and along with um Dylan Harper and that's Champagny right at the
Yeah.
three. I feel like right away. Oh man, this is hard because like Vassell was in the starting lineup for them last year, but and then Castle looked so good down the stretch. Uh, and then
NBA Rookie of the Year, Steph Castle.
Yeah, and that's Harrison Barnes. They still have Barnes too.
I'll say one thing. I do think Steph Castle's a fine player, but I think it's a Malcolm Brogdon type Rookie of the Year season. Um, and I don't really I'm perfectly fine starting two guys with shaky shots because I think Fox and Harper are like good off the catch shooters. I'm
Yeah,
not sure if I can do three of them though, is the thing. And
yeah,
that's like the same reason Sohan goes to the bench. Um,
okay. Yeah, I don't know. I think yeah, I think the only thing I would probably have different is starting Sohan. I don't know if I would do it for Bryant or Champagny, but yeah,
yeah.
and then also Barnes was like one of their better shooters last year. Um, right? Or am I tripping?
I don't think you're tripping. It's just like
Okay, okay, okay. I know it's crazy
what
to
are we
think.
coming to expect out of Harrison? It's
Yeah.
so weird.
Yeah, so like you might have you might have to start Harrison Barnes at that instead of Champagny, but I don't know. I honestly like this lineup a lot. Because big Champagny guy, I really like Champagny. And it's fun to see the two rookies in there because we know what Carter Bryant can do defensively. So I mean, this defensively, this is also not a bad lineup as well. Um, and like we said, Wemby does so much that like if you have two shooters that can't really shoot, does it matter when there's a 7-4 man dunking and shooting post fadeaways? Not really. So I actually like this lineup a lot. It's a really interesting take. Uh,
I think you've
it's
talked me into starting Harrison Barnes though. Day
yeah,
one.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Over Bryant probably. Just like give him
Okay,
some
yeah,
time.
yep. Because like he was the most reliable shooter for them last year. Like believe it or
Him and
not.
Champagny were like awesome shooters. Champagny shot like 38%. And Champagny's also a lot taller than his Wizards brother. I think Justin is like 6'4", 6'5". And then Julian Champagny's a legit 6'7", 6'8". So you get some size out there. I kind of, and we'll talk about this a little bit more in the core questions, but I think they are looking at the OKC Thunder as kind of their blueprint for how they're trying to
Yeah.
build their team. Um,
Yep.
yeah, I'm also kind of in favor of starting Shohan. It's just then you have to be a little bit more hesitant on Dylan Harper, I think, and you just spent the number 2 overall pick on Dylan Harper. So you move things out the way for that. The guy you're taking number 2 overall, I think. We can argue about Carter Bryant starting. Um, Vassell, I was thinking about starting Vassell, but then I was like, I was already on the fence between him and Champagny, and then you see the lineup numbers, and you're just like,
Yeah.
nothing worked with Vassell out there, and he's been probably the spearhead of like, holy shit, this guy doesn't know how to play with Wemby. Um, I hope to see more health out of him because I think he's had health concerns. a little bit early on in his career. Um, any of these bench players also just give you a time to talk about any of these deep cut guys?
I mean, Loki, the bench is looking a lot deeper than usual. I think Castle, Vassell, Shohan, Cornette, Barnes, and Olenek are all guys that can get minutes for sure. Maybe we see some interesting looks with Wemby at the four, Olenek at the four, something like that. I think that could be a lot of fun. This should be a decent team. Yeah.
Yeah, I like having two actually good centers behind Wemby. It's like actually good instead of like Zach Collins is like you know the
It's
he's
calm.
the Jalen
It's
Brown
calm.
of Cody Zellers, you know.
Yep.
Core questions: do we think they improved this offseason?
Yeah. I think. Oh wait. No, I don't think they improved because they didn't really bring much. Oh wait, they got Olenek and Cornette. Yeah, they improved. They improved. I think they improved because they solidified the center position. And even though you lose Chris Paul, I do think that having those two like centers that can actually put in minutes outweighs that.
Yeah, just knowing how good Chris Paul was for them, it makes it to me like it's like maybe yes, but like very, very marginally, I think. Like having those backup centers, I think does actually do a lot for them. And like, is the rest of the team like will Dylan Harper and Carter Bryant be good day one role players? We'll have to see. Um, but I don't know. Maybe just marginally. Do we think they set themselves up better for the future? Um,
Yeah, 100%. Uh, you got your next point guard. You got your next point guard for a good bit, and you also got a really versatile wing that's gonna play some amazing defense and knock down the three ball. Yeah, 100%.
the only pushback I think you can have is they lock themselves into De'Aaron Fox. Um, and like it kind of locks them into this roster because they've sneakily used up all of their picks that they acquired during their rebuild. Like they used one to get De'Aaron Fox, and then they used two of them in this year's draft. So this is kind of what the roster is probably going to be with Wemby, unless they're bad for another season and they get a player next year in the draft with their own picks. I think they have one Atlanta pick left. Like, yes, but probably also very marginally. Because I think Dylan Harper is probably going to be good, and I'm certain Carter Bryant will at least be a rotational playoff player at some point in his career. Whether or not that's a starter or an eighth man, I'm not sure yet. But yeah, that's I kind of agree. Offensive MVP and defensive MVP for me are both Victor Wembanyama. What do you
Yeah, I
have?
was about to say. Yeah, I was gonna say that too. Uh, we explained why earlier that he's kind of their offense and defense. So
It's like when Draymond Green played for the Warriors, he was like, "Oh my God, he's an all defensive center and he can also shoot, and he's also our backup point guard." And that's what Victor Wembanyama is. It's a 7'4" version who's a much better shooter. Awesome. It breaks the game, and I think it's gonna make up for how they're building their roster. We'll talk about that right after we do the X Factor section. X Factor for me, I think, is Devin Vassell. Can he stay healthy? I think, you read off his games played. Um, 38, 68, 64 past 3 seasons. Not like a super available guy, and you would want that out of a guy who needs to be a role player on your team. And yeah, I think that's a big X factor for them because they could have some idea of being already financially committed to him. Therefore, they have to start him, and he needs to be good then. I think. So, what do you have for X factor?
I went with De'Aaron Fox. I feel like this, if he like you just gave him that huge extension, he's gonna have to come there and he's gonna have to come day one and be balling. Uh, he's gonna have to provide a lot of good playmaking. I mean, I guess I could be like the X factor is his shooting, but I'm not gonna say that. I'm just gonna say he just go out there and be a great basketball player. Knock down shots, play some defense, and set Wemby up well. I think if he does that, like if he goes in and beats the guy that they paid all that money for, the Spurs team is scary.
100% agree. Um, if he gets back to all NBA Fox, then like the concerns about the contract are gone. I think it's just he hasn't been that player for about 2 seasons now. Um, I guess the final core question that we don't usually have to ask is, are they building this team right? Because I think how they see roster building is you have your big center, and then if you learned anything from this finals, it's that like having balls or having balls, um,
That is
having
important.
having versatile offensive players is like kind of key. Like you look at the Thunder, they are not a big team, even though they did run double big in the finals. Like a lot of the time, Jalen Williams is their power forward, and then they're like Dort Caruso, Aaron Wiggins, Usman Jang didn't play in the playoffs, but guys like that are just like their wing players. They don't play real big guys. So it's hard for me to say I watched that and like the Pacers who start 2 point guards to say that you can't have a team slanted with on ball offensive players, multiple of them. And they see Wembanyama as like, okay, well, if there's any defensive deficiencies to doing that, well, we got an answer to that, and it's 7'4". Um, what do we
Yeah,
think about, or what do you think on that aspect of it?
I think that's what they're doing. You have guys that have multiple ways to score the ball. It's not like a 3 point slanted team. It's not a drive slanted team. I think they have guys that can do both. They have athletic wings that can guard multiple positions. They have good defenders, and they have stars, and they have guys that can play make. And I think that's all the makings that you need. The kind of what the Thunder had with SGA, a great playmaker. I think obviously these guys are going to be on SGA's playmaking level, but they can do a good enough job to get them there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think the one concern though is like I don't think anybody outside of Wemby can self create threes. Um, so we'll just I don't know,
Mm,
we'll have to see, and like that could be like
no.
dis
Yeah.
uh a minor concern, but yeah, that is something to bring up, right? Like Wemby's the only
Yeah.
guy who can
But
create.
when Wemby's driving to the paint, he's got two guys coming to him. You're gonna have someone open on that perimeter. You know.
And he's legitimately a good passer. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
and they're
agree.
gonna send if you don't send multiple guys at Wemby, then I feel bad for your center that night because he's gonna get cooked.
Yeah, and Wemby is like, it's like the Porzingis thing where Porzingis gives you the 5 out spacing and he's just so damn tall that if you put a smaller player on him, he can just shoot over them even if he's not like super strong. Like he reaches up and he's touching the backboard. So, um yeah, it's a cheat code. What do we think the ideal player next to Wemby is as the second best player? Because I think that's like the huge conversation when talking about Fox. Like, who's the ideal second guy?
Luca.
I feel like the answer is always like Luca or Jason Tatum because they have just
Um,
skills that fit next to everybody.
Cade. You want to be more niche? We go Cade Cunningham, maybe. I think that would be a pretty fun
Cade
one to
would
be
be
next
pretty
to.
good.
Um,
Um, I think I think it
Desmond Bain. No, I'm playing. I'm playing.
shoot. I think they would be much better off with Desmond Bain on the wing than like a combination of all of their wing
Yeah,
players. Um, yeah, and I think there's a good chance they like reassemble how they're building this roster, and we'll be talking saying that they're making huge changes soon in a little bit, but it could also just work because everybody's talented at making decisions and seeing the floor. This will be like probably I think the most impossible team to rank
yeah.
um, when we
Because they
rank
could,
all of the
they,
West.
they could be like a 6 seed, or they could be out of the play-in. Like there's no telling.
Yeah, there's literally no telling. And the fact that they won 34 games last season with their head coach, becoming too old and their best player getting hurt and having just this huge midseason trade. I thought they won 29 games before I went back and looked at this. Regardless, I'm looking for a way to end this. This will end the Spurs unless you have anything else.
Nah, I said my piece.
Yeah, it should be a very important season. I mean, maybe not because they've already locked in their decisions with Fox being extended. But regardless, that'll do it for this one. Next episode will be the Houston Rockets. We'll see you guys then.
All right.